Hi gaming guys, and so we've got another special projects build for you today, and this time it's not a replica, it's actually a custom build, and this was a requested build for a GT3 spec racing build for the Dodge Viper, SRT-10 in particular, and the Coupe to be precise. Now technically you could also use the ACR, but it was specifically requested for the SRT-10, so that's the one that we've gone for. Now, although the car isn't a replica, I will do a quick run through of what I've done visually to the car if you do want to replicate that. But obviously the main thing in the case of this car is the mechanical setup. So first of all we'll go over to the visual tuning garage, then over to the mechanical setup, and of course finally out to a racetrack. Now for this particular build we've gone for the Type A body kit, which of course adds the extra side skirts, the chin splitter and the small front winglets. There is no flat floor, which is kind of a shame on this one. It kind of already has a bit of a diffuser going on at the back anyway, but a flat floor would have been nice. As far as the rear wing, I've gone for a custom wing. I've gone for the Type E wing supports, which are relatively minimal. I've gone for the Type D wing itself, which is a curved wing with a central bump. And then we've gone for the Type A winglets on the end. As far as size, I didn't want it to be extremely large. It's not a Pikes Peak car after all. So I've gone for a width of 10 and a height of 1. Then for the rims, I've gone for the kind of rims which you'd usually expect to see on a race car, these BBS LMRs, which are fairly race car-esque looking rims. As far as the additional meters, I have fitted those on this one. I've gone for water temp, oil temp and oil pressure, and then I've gone for black on the colour palette just to match the existing HUD. As far as the colour itself of the car, I've gone for an orange, or kind of an orangey red. It's actually called Hemi Orange, which comes from, as you'd expect, the SRT and I think also the Dodge dealerships. As far as the rim colour though, we've gone for obviously a black. And I have mentioned this black before, but for any who perhaps haven't been in any of the videos where I've mentioned it, as you can see it's a really dark solid black, and basically the way to get that black is to purchase the Peugeot Vision GT car, which if you buy it in the red number 764 and I believe also the blue colour as well, it actually glitches out so that any car you put that colour on, it shows up as a solid black. And I've also used that colour for the brakes. As I said, we've gone for Hemi Orange on the body and also on the wing. So that's it overall for the visual look. So now let's of course go over to the mechanical tuning garage for the setup. Now, due to the fact that this car does not have a flat floor, you can actually get it to have more power at a slightly lower PP, which means that although it would be ideal for handling to have one, it is kind of beneficial in a different way to not have the flat floor. Now I've gone for racing soft tyres, but obviously that's dependent on what you need. As far as the suspension, we've got the ride height on 80 front and rear. You can go even lower than that, but I didn't want the car to look too slammed. For the springs, we've increased those right up to 1225 and 1425, the dampers to 5, anti-roll we've left on 3, we've got neutral camber and tow. We'll come back to the gearbox in just a second actually. For the diff, you can change it around. If you want the handling to be a little bit more loose, you can go lower on the initial torque and higher on the acceleration and braking. But as I've mentioned before, I like my cars to have slightly heavy steering, so I've gone for halfway on initial torque, the lowest acceleration and braking settings. As far as power, I've gone for, as you can see, 600 horsepower. We do have an oil change on this one. Now, you've got a couple of options, because really you can build this to similar GT3 specs, which is around 590, 600 horsepower, without fitting as many things as I've done. Nowhere near as many, so it depends how much money you want to spend. The reasons why I have fitted more and then restricted it so severely is twofold. One, because I like the fact that it increases the red line. And although peak power is lower, it's still cool to have a car that sounds more like a race car. And also, doing this in fitting all these parts and then reducing the power limiter actually allows you to have a massive amount more torque than you would if you had the same power with less parts. So it really depends on what you want. Now, as you can see, doing it this way, fitting all of these parts apart from the supercharger, basically allows you to sit at around 580 pp, which is pretty good. It's perhaps a little lower than you might expect, but definitely highly usable. We've got the downforce as high as possible, obviously the full weight loss package, but then to bring it up to roughly GT3 specs, we've added 98 kilo ballast to bring us up to 1350 kilos. Then I've put that 4% towards the front of the car, which is basically on the limit of still being a 49-51 split, because personally I believe that for rear-wheel drive cars, a 49-51 split is the best you can get. That's what really Le Mans cars usually aim for, and having a little bit more weight over those rear tyres can actually help quite a lot. Finally, for the gearbox, obviously it's not a top speed tune, and also the SRT-10 Coupe does not have a particularly good top speed of the Vipers anyway, so I've gone for an auto setting of 180, then individual gears of 4, 2.7, 2, 1575, 1.3 and 1075, with a final drive of 2.4. So that's it overall for the mechanical setup. So now let's take it out to a racetrack, of course, to see just what it can do. Now overall, I personally really love the handling that this particular car has. Even without the flat floor, it has a huge amount of grip. The steering is perfectly weighted to my personal driving style, but as I said, especially in the case of the diff, if you do need it to handle differently, those are the settings that you primarily need to change. Overall, it's a highly competitive machine. You can easily get it up around or even over 200 miles per hour, which is good enough for many tracks, and for its PP level, it is a very good car, especially considering that it is still a road car, but the handling, the performance, the speed, it is very much like a race car. So if you do decide to use this GT3 style build, obviously I hope you find it fun, and it's definitely very competitive. And if you'd like to keep up with other special builds like this in the future, be sure to hit subscribe down below for those as soon as they're released. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.